Jai Gurudev, thank you for joining us today. Today we have the honor of interviewing an expert from the Art of Living Foundation and an officer of the Vedic Dhamma Sansthan. We will explore the intersection of ancient practices like Sudarshan Kriya, Ayurveda, Yoga, and how they can contribute to preserving and nurturing the Marathi language and its scholarly writings. We will delve into the wisdom of His Holiness Gurudev Shri Shri Ravi Shankar Ji and how his teachings can help not only individuals but also communities in keeping their culture, language, and wisdom alive for generations to come. Jai Gurudev and Namaste. And thank you for joining us today. To begin, could you share a little about your background and role in the Art of Living Foundation and Vedic Dhamma Sansthan? Jai Gurudev and Namaste. It's an honor to be here. I am an officer at the Vedic Dhamma Sansthan where we work on reviving and preserving the ancient spiritual and cultural wisdom of Vedic traditions. Additionally, I am deeply involved with the Art of Living Foundation, an organization founded by His Holiness Gurudev Shri Shri Ravi Shankar Ji. We teach practices like Sudarshan Kriya, Pranayama, meditation, and more, which aim to improve the physical, mental, and spiritual health of individuals. Both organizations emphasize holistic well being and the preservation of our culture and spiritual heritage. How do you think His Holiness Gurudev Shri Shri Ravi Shankar Ji's wisdom and the tools offered by the Art of Living like Sudarshan Kriya and meditation can contribute to the preservation of the Marathi language and its literature? That's a great question. Gurudev's wisdom transcends any language barrier. His teachings focus on creating a state of inner peace, which naturally enhances creativity and clarity of thought. When we practice tools like Sudarshan Kriya and meditation, it enables us to connect deeply with ourselves and the world around us. This inner stillness enhances our ability to understand and appreciate the beauty of our culture, language, and literature. For example, the Marathi language, with its rich history and literature, requires people to be deeply connected to their roots. Through practices like Sudarshan Kriya, one's mind becomes clearer, calmer, and more focused. This clarity can inspire people to delve into classical Marathi literature, preserve traditional writings, and even revive forgotten texts. The integration of these practices creates a mental and spiritual environment where the language can flourish both in scholarly works and in everyday conversations. Gurudev's teachings also encourage creativity and introspection, which are key components for literary creation and preservation. That's quite insightful. Could you explain how practices such as pranayama, satsang, and guru pujas, in conjunction with traditional Marathi spiritual practices, can aid in nurturing a cultural atmosphere that fosters language preservation? Absolutely, pranayama or breathing exercises and satsang or spiritual gathering are powerful tools for strengthening the mind and connecting with the divine, and these can be easily adapted to Marathi traditions. When people practice pranayama regularly, they experience increased mental clarity and emotional stability. This balance allows individuals to engage more deeply with cultural texts and traditions, including those in Marathi. Satsang is another important tool. It brings people together to sing devotional songs or bhajans, chant mantras, and share wisdom. This gathering creates a sense of community, a bond that encourages the preservation and sharing of cultural knowledge. In the Marathi tradition, satsangs often include readings from great poets like Sant Tukaram and Sant Dhyaneshwar. This serves as a bridge connecting modern day practitioners with the ancient wisdom. Guru pujas and homas or sacred fire rituals also play a significant role. They help to invoke blessings from the divine and offer a sense of sacredness to everyday life. When practiced in a culturally rich environment, such rituals can deepen one's connection to the heritage of the Marathi language and spiritual traditions. These practices ensure that the wisdom of great Marathi saints and scholars is not lost but is continually passed on. That's very interesting. You mentioned Ayurveda and Ayurvedic cooking. How can these ancient practices tie into cultural preservation, especially within the Marathi context? Yes, Ayurveda is an integral part of our Vedic heritage and plays a significant role in maintaining physical, mental, and spiritual well being. In the Marathi culture, Ayurveda has always been deeply woven into daily life. Many traditional Maharashtrian recipes are rooted in Ayurvedic principles that focus on balanced nutrition and natural healing. By incorporating Ayurvedic practices in our daily lives, we are not only preserving the essence of a holistic lifestyle but also preserving the language and knowledge associated with it. For example, traditional Marathi cookbooks often contain recipes that are based on Ayurvedic guidelines for different seasons, doshas, body types, and spiritual growth. These books, some of which are written in poetic Marathi words, are a testament to how closely food and language were interwoven in cultural practices. Furthermore, His Holiness Gurudev Shri Ravi Shankarji has often spoken about the importance of maintaining balance in life. Ayurveda, with its focus on balance between the body, mind, and spirit, directly aligns with its teachings. When people engage in Ayurvedic cooking, they are also preserving the art of creating nutritious, wholesome meals that not only satisfy the body but also honor our cultural heritage. That's beautiful. Can you elaborate on how practices such as Upanayanam or sacred thread ceremonies, Sandhya Vandanam or daily prayers and Trikal Sandhya can be incorporated into the preservation and flourishing of Marathi literature and culture? Upanayanam is a rite of passage that marks the formal initiation into learning and spiritual practice, often accompanied by the recitation of sacred texts. In the Marathi culture, this ceremony has been a way for individuals to connect with their ancestral wisdom by practicing Sandhya Vandanam or Trikal Sandhya, the three daily prayers. Individuals not only honor the divine but also stay connected to the Sanskrit and Marathi prayers passed down through generations. These practices foster a discipline of study, contemplation, and spiritual growth. Marathi literature, much like Sanskrit, is rich with the profound spiritual insights. Reciting mantras in the morning, noon, and evening during Sandhya Vandanam enhances memory and concentration, which are vital when studying and preserving literature. These prayers, when combined with the teachings of His Holiness Gurudev Shri Ravi Shankarji, encourage mindfulness and respect for one's cultural heritage. In terms of language preservation, these rituals serve as a foundation. Through the repetition of Sanskrit verses in Marathi, people learn and internalize the language while honoring the legacy of our spiritual masters. What role do practices like Gayatri Japa chanting and Shloka recitation play in keeping Marathi wisdom and literary traditions alive? Gayatri Japa is one of the most powerful practices in the Vedic tradition. Chanting the Gayatri Mantra brings purity and spiritual enlightenment. In the Marathi context, the Gayatri Mantra has been recited for centuries and its recitation has been integral in daily life. By chanting Gayatri, one is aligning themselves with the higher truths, highest truths, and this can directly enhance one's connection to the deep literary and philosophical traditions in Marathi. Similarly, the recitation of shlokas or verses is another way to preserve both language and wisdom. Marathi literature itself is filled with profound shlokas written by saints and scholars. These shlokas are often memorized and passed down orally, and they are filled with wisdom that transcends time. By actively engaging in the recitation of these texts, we not only preserve the language but also cultivate an environment where these texts are revered, respected, and shared with for future generations. Can you share any personal examples of how these tools have helped individuals or communities in revitalizing their connection to Marathi culture? Yes, I have seen many people, especially younger generations, reconnect with their Marathi heritage through these practices. For instance, a group of students from Maharashtra participated in a workshop on Sudarshan Kriya and meditation, and it was remarkable to see how their mental clarity improved. Some of them started writing poetry in Marathi again, channeling the deep sense of peace and creativity that the practices unlock. Similarly, I have seen families adopt Ayurvedic cooking practices, which not only improved their health but also gave them a renewed sense of pride in their Marathi heritage. They began to reconnect with their traditional recipes, and even though they lived in urban areas, they started growing their own herbs and spices, something that had been lost in the hustle of modern life. In villages, when people practice Sandhya Vandanam together, there is a resurgence of interest in old Marathi literature, especially the works of saints like Sant Tukaram. These practices have a way of connecting the spiritual with the literary, creating an environment where the wisdom of the past can thrive. In closing, what message would you like to give to the readers about how they can incorporate these ancient tools to preserve and develop Marathi language and culture? My message would be simple: go back to your roots. The Marathi language, literature, and traditions are not just a part of our past, they are alive and vibrant today. By incorporating practices like meditation, Sudarshan Kriya, Gayatri Japa, and Ayurvedic cooking, you can reconnect with your cultural heritage on a deeper level. These tools offer a way to preserve not only the language but also the wisdom embedded within it. Embrace these practices daily, and you will find that they not only help you evolve as an individual but also contribute to the flourishing of Marathi culture. Every little effort counts. Even if you begin by chanting a Marathi prayer or learning a Marathi shloka, you are helping to preserve a treasure trove of wisdom for future generations. Thank you so much for your valuable insights and for sharing the wisdom of His Holiness Gurudev Shri Ravi Shankar Ji. It's been an enlightening conversation. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share. Namaste. Jai Gurudev, you have beautifully explained how practices like Sudarshan Kriya, Ayurveda, and Sandhya Vandanam can connect us to our roots. Could you dive deeper into the concept of sadhana in the Padma sadhana in the context of preserving Marathi literature? And how does consistent practice of spiritual disciplines help in this endeavor? Yes, sadhana in the context of art of living refers to the disciplined practice of connecting with one's higher self through various techniques like meditation, breathing exercises, and selfless service. This practice, when undertaken regularly, can have a profound impact on how we interact with our cultural and linguistic heritage. When one engages in a consistent spiritual practice, the mind becomes more stable, peaceful, and clear. Such a mind is not only more receptive to knowledge, but is also better equipped to preserve and pass on the wisdom of the past. In terms of Marathi literature, sadhana helps one engage with the essence of spiritual texts, many of which are written in the Marathi language or are directly linked to the Marathi culture, text, and context. Take, for example, the Bhakti movement in Maharashtra, led by saints like Saint Dhyaneswar, Sant Eknath, and Sant Tukaram. These saints wrote in Marathi, and their poetry was a deep reflection of their inner experience. By practicing meditation and engaging in deep sadhana, one can understand and connect with the essence of these teachings more profoundly. Such a person would not only preserve these texts but would also be motivated to share them with others, ensuring their continuity. In the larger context, sadhana teaches us discipline, focus, and dedication, qualities that are crucial for any kind of scholarly activity, whether it is preserving or creating literature. By making sadhana a part of our daily routine, we develop the strength to preserve our language and culture through active engagement and participation. You have made a compelling case for how sadhana and other spiritual tools enhances one's ability to connect with the cultural heritage. Moving on, could you explain how mantra chanting and shloka recitation can directly contribute to the growth of Marathi literary traditions? Yes, mantra chanting and shloka recitation are both ancient practices that have a direct impact on mental clarity and emotional stability. These practices have been part of the Indian spiritual and literary traditions for millennia, including in Maharashtra. In the Marathi context, many of our great saints, philosophers, and poets have composed shlokas and hymns that are deeply rooted in spiritual wisdom. And these shlokas not only carry philosophical teachings but are also expressed in poetic forms that are rich with the literary beauty. Mantra chanting is often done in a meditative state, and its vibrations have powerful effect on the mind and the environment. When we chant mantras, particularly those from our spiritual texts, we are directly engaging with the essence of these texts. For example, the Gayatri mantra, though originally a Vedic mantra, has found its place in many regional languages, including Marathi. When we chant it with devotion, it purifies the mind and connects us to the divine wisdom. And this connection fosters an appreciation for the literary and cultural traditions in which these mantras were written. Similarly, shloka recitation in the Marathi language can have profound effects on preserving the language itself. Many of the great Marathi poets and spiritual leaders like Sant Tukaram, Sant Eknath, and even modern poets have written in verse. These shlokas and hymns are not only spiritual in nature but also of a literary and poetic beauty that appeals to the heart. Through regular recitation, these shlokas and verses have become ingrained in the collective consciousness, ensuring their continued existence. When individuals and communities engage in the regular recitation of Marathi shlokas, they actively participate in the cultural transmission of our literary heritage. They internalize the poetry and wisdom, and through this, the preservation and development of Marathi language are sustained. It's like breathing life into the language, ensuring it thrives through consistent practice and reverence. That's a profound perspective on the role of chanting and recitation. Now, you have spoken about a connection between physical health, mental clarity, and cultural preservation. Could you further explore how Ayurveda, particularly its practices like Ayurvedic cooking and lifestyle, can contribute to the development of Marathi culture, especially in urban environments? Yes, Ayurveda is a science of life and it is deeply connected to every aspect of human existence, body, mind, and spirit. In traditional Marathi households, Ayurvedic principles were a way of life even before they were recognized as a formal system of medicine. Many age old recipes and cooking methods are rooted in Ayurvedic principles that focus on balancing the three doshas of Vata, Pitta, and Kapha to ensure physical, mental, and emotional well being. However, As urbanization increased, many people started losing touch with these ancient practices, opting for faster, more processed food options. Here is where the revival of Ayurvedic cooking and lifestyle can help bridge that gap. When we reintroduce traditional cooking methods that are grounded in Ayurvedic principles, we not only improve physical health but also reconnect with the deeper cultural knowledge embedded in these practices. For example, traditional Maharashtrian meals like Puran Poli, Sabudana Khichdi, and Bhakri or flatbread often follow Ayurvedic guidelines, balancing various takes and textures to suit the needs of the body. By learning these recipes, families can pass down not only the flavors but the wisdom of Ayurveda in Marathi. This practice can be revived in urban spaces through workshops, cooking classes, or even community based activities. One of the main aspects of Ayurvedic cooking is the use of locally sourced seasonal ingredients. It encourages us to grow our own food, which helps preserve the cultural knowledge of local farming methods and seasonal cycles, important components of Marathi rural life. Moreover, Ayurvedic practices also promote the consumption of herbs and spices that are abundant in Maharashtra, such as turmeric, coriander, cumin, and fenugreek, all of which have healing properties. In modern urban life, incorporating Ayurveda into daily practices not only improves personal well being but also strengthens the community's connection to its roots. By teaching the younger generation these practices, we can ensure that the ancient wisdom embedded in Marathi food culture remains alive and vibrant. Absolutely, Ayurveda and its food philosophy are a critical link to preserving the Marathi way of life. You also mentioned Guru Puja and Homas earlier. Could you elaborate on how these sacred rituals can play a role in the preservation of Marathi spirituality and literary traditions? Yes, Guru Puja and Homas are not just rituals, they are profound spiritual practices that help individuals connect with a higher consciousness and invoke divine blessings. In the Vedic tradition, rituals like these have always been performed to honor the Guru, the divine teacher, and to create a spiritually conducive environment for learning. In the Marathi cultural context, Guru Puja has a very special place. The Marathi people have a long tradition of revering their spiritual masters and teachers. Many of the spiritual leaders in Maharashtra, such as Sant Dhyaneshwar, Sant Tukaram, and even contemporary leaders have emphasized the importance of honoring the Guru. Through rituals like Guru Puja, we invite the blessings of these great teachers and ensure that their wisdom continues to guide us. Guru Puja is often accompanied by homas or sacred fire rituals where offerings are made to the divine. These rituals purify the atmosphere and create an energetic shift that is conducive to learning and spiritual growth. When these rituals are performed in a community setting, they bring people together and help in creating a sacred environment where wisdom can flourish. These sacred practices, are essential to keeping the spiritual and literary traditions alive. For instance, Sant Tukaram's abhangas or devotional songs were often sung in community gatherings, and these gatherings were marked by fire rituals and Guru Puja. By reviving such practices today, we not only preserve Marathi spiritual traditions but also help in the regeneration of literary traditions. Before we conclude, how do you envision the future of Marathi culture in light of all these ancient spiritual tools and practices? And what can communities do to further develop and preserve Marathi literature? I'm extremely hopeful for the future of Marathi culture. As people become more aware of the importance of their heritage, there is a natural resurgence in interest in both traditional spiritual practices and literary works. The key to preserving and developing Marathi culture lies in our ability to integrate ancient practices like meditation, sadhana, Ayurveda, and rituals into our modern lives. Communities can contribute by organizing workshops, satsangs, and cultural festivals where Marathi literature, music, and spiritual practices are celebrated. Schools and universities can integrate more spiritual and cultural teachings into their curriculum to foster a deeper appreciation for the Marathi language and its literary treasures at the individual level. It starts with a simple commitment to engage in daily spiritual practices like meditation, chanting, and Ayurvedic living, whether it's reciting a shloka in Marathi, learning an old recipe from an elder, or participating in a community in root ritual. Every small step contributes to the larger goal of preserving our cultural identity. By combining the spiritual tools provided by the art of living and the wisdom of ancient Marathi traditions, we can ensure that our culture not only survives but thrives in the modern world. The future is bright if we remain connected to our roots and continue to nourish our language and literature with love, devotion, and respect. Thank you so much for this enlightening conversation. It's been a true pleasure to learn how spiritual practices can play a transformative role in the preservation of Marathi culture and language. It was my pleasure. I sincerely hope that these practices inspire many to reconnect with their cultural roots, the wisdom of His Holiness Gurudev Shri Ravi Shankarji, and the teachings of our Marathi saints can truly guide us towards prosperous and spiritually fulfilling future. Namaste and Jai Gurudev. Jai Gurudev, so in the earlier part of our conversation, we discussed the importance of spiritual practices like Sudarshan Kriya and meditation in preserving Marathi culture. Can you elaborate on how Sudarshan Kriya and its deeper effects on the individual can help in the preservation of Marathi literature and traditional wisdom? Absolutely, Sudarshan Kriya is a powerful breathing technique that has a profound impact on the mind and body. It helps in releasing deep seated stress and emotional blockages, creating a state of inner peace and heightened awareness. Now, when we talk about preserving Marathi literature and traditional wisdom, the connection lies in the clarity and peace that Sudarshan Kriya brings to the practitioner. When an individual practices Sudarshan Kriya regularly, their mind becomes calmer, more focused, and more attuned to their surroundings. This heightened awareness enables them to dive deeper into the text of Marathi literature, which often require a subtle reflective mindset to fully appreciate, whether it's the philosophical writings of Sant Dhyaneshwar, the poetic compositions of Sant Tukaram, or the profound spiritual wisdom of Dhyaneshwari. These texts demand both intellectual and emotional engagement. In the fast-paced, stress-filled world we live in, many people find it hard to engage deeply with literature or appreciate the nuances of old texts. However, through Sudarshan Kriya, practitioners develop a mental space that allows them to absorb and reflect on these texts more meaningfully. It helps to preserve the spiritual essence of Marathi literary traditions, ensuring that future generations can benefit from the wisdom encoded in these texts. Jagadev.